Hello everyone, this is Peak Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another entry in our unrated and underappreciated movie review series, and this edition we will focus on the superb, powerful, compelling cop drama Narc. Released in January the 10th, 2003, it stars Ray Liotta and Jason Patric and was directed by Joe Carahan. The setup here is that we follow the story of undercover narcotics officer Nick Tellis, played by Jason Patric, and following an intense pursuit of a drug dealer, he accidentally shoots and murders a pregnant mother who loses the baby. Months after this traumatic incident, he's trying to get his career back on track and he's offered a special assignment investigating the murder of another undercover officer. He agrees to take the case in return for getting a desk job because he wants to come out of the field of undercover operations. Another condition of this assignment is that he's partnered with Detective Henry Oak, who is played brilliantly by Ray Liotta. And over the course of the story, the two work together on the case as they continue their investigations. Big revelations and secrets are discovered, and darker elements within the police department are revealed. Now for me, Narc is a powerful, compelling and very complex and at times very intense cop drama. On the surface, it's a straightforward police story where you've got two detectives hunting down a particular case, but there are far more depths which make it much more in terms of characterization and storytelling. It's very well shot by Joe Carahan. There's a very bleak, cold visual template used. He uses a lot of these very light blue filters, and that very much transmits an airing of coldness. The intention of the director was to create a really realistic and gritty, broken down environment. It's very reminiscent of classic films such as Serpico, starring Al Pacino of course, French Connection later on starring Gene Hackman of course, and I would even go far to say Michael Mann's Heat in terms of the screen composition, and as I mentioned before, particularly the use of blue and grey to really transmit more that urban, more realistic, modern day feel. And as I mentioned before, there's a real vivid and real gritty visceral edge, and this is emphasised no more so than the opening sequence, which is truly a raw, extremely disturbing and shocking scene. The director, he uses very much of this handheld technique as we follow Tellis on his pursuit of the drug dealer, and he really puts us at the forefront of this particular chase of this drug dealer, and it's brilliantly staged and it really pulls you in to the story straight away, particularly when we get the shocking climax of this particular sequence. And I think it's very well done, very well directed. And Narc for me is also a masterclass in storytelling, and the narrative really has that tone of a mystery and intrigue about it. You're constantly compelled to watch the story unfold, and overall it plays out to a truly exhilarating climax when we look at the last 20 minutes when we see the resolution of the investigation. This is very intense in terms of the action and the revelations and the mood and the atmosphere. Everything becomes heightened towards the film's final climax. Now the primary reason for the movie's brilliance is that it's fueled by two exceptional performances from its lead actors. We have Jason Patric as Tellis, and he is superb as this character, who is much more of a sympathetic and conflicted character. We really understand the distress and ordeal that he goes through following that opening scene, and Patrick does a great job in conveying much more of a softly spoken character who's trying to rid his inner demons as he goes undercover. We see the toll that this takes on him and his wife, and he also has a child, and I just think it's great character depth, as this is a character who clearly wants to get away from the life as an undercover narcotics officer, and it's a very well judged and very well handled performance from Jason Patric. It's contrasted superbly of course with Ray Liotta's far more rage-driven Henry Oak. Whilst he's far more aggressive and explosive, we also get amazing depth as we learn that he was friends with the murdered officer that they are investigating, and he is very determined to find out who his murderers were, and he will take whatever method is necessary to get to the truth of the case. We have fantastic chemistry between the two as they go on this further investigation, and both their very different personalities contrast each other very well, and I think again it makes for a far more compelling story. We get truly amazing flashback scene in what is, I think, one of the most standout scenes of the entire movie, when Oak tells his backstory to Tellis in the car, and here again we see there is a tragic element to Oak behind his motivation, and I just love the editing here as we go back throughout the backstory, when Oak is talking about the various themes and ideas of right and wrong and doing what is necessary to enhance that idea of right and wrong. And it's a fantastic scene. I love the music, I love the cinematography and the way everything is edited and shot. It's a brilliant scene and emphasizes once again the maximum impact you can get with two characters just talking to one another. It's a brilliant scene, and again, one of the best scenes throughout the whole movie. And we talk about Ray Liotta, who for me, I feel this performance in this movie is his best performance within his career. Now, Ray Liotta for me has always been a dramatic actor, lots of energy, lots of dynamism, but I think he's vastly underrated, and I think as an actor he should have had a far bigger career than what he has ultimately ended up with. We all know he made his biggest impact way back in the Scorsese classic gangster film Goodfellas, starring alongside of course Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci, and I think at the time many people felt that Ray Liotta was going to be that next big dramatic cinematic lead actor. Many deemed as well that he would eventually follow in the footsteps of both the likes of your Joe Pesci and your Robert De Niro and your Al Pacino, and he would go on to star in these heavyweight movies, winning Oscars. And I honestly think he is talented enough to win an Oscar even now in this later stage of his career. If we look overall, he's taken many scripts and roles that I personally feel are beneath him, not worthy of his overall talent. And I just think it's a shame that his career hasn't ascended to the great heights that I think his acting skill set is deserving of. But here in this movie, he's utterly compelling, he's vivid, he's physically imposing. You can clearly see he's put on extra weight, he's got that really bulky presence about him, and this makes Detective Oak a far more frightening and very imposing character. That adds the edge and the tension towards the movie, where we see him multiple times taking on these different routines and battering down criminals in order to beat the truth out of them. It just keeps you on that edge and keeps the suspense trickling along nicely throughout the movie. It's truly his performance, his intensity that really drives the story and the momentum throughout this film, particularly as I mentioned before in those last 20 minutes, which are truly breathtaking to watch. I trust you, when you watch these last final climatic moments and you see how everything unfolds, it's truly magnificent. And Ray Liotta, as I mentioned before, for me truly gives the performance of his career, and once again underlines what a great actor he can be if given the right script. I also love the musical score by Cliff Martinez. It has that very dry, atmospheric, very somber tone to it, and I really think it adds texture and weight to the story, adding to the movie's overall high quality. So if I had to give an overall score for Narc, I would give it a 9.3 out of 10. It truly is a superb film with incredible performance from both its lead actors and very skilled and expert direction from Joe Carahan, classical, masterful storytelling, again hints of mystery and intrigue to it, and it all built up to a frenetic and truly exciting final 20 minutes. And it's one of those rare films that I think has a brilliant intense start and also a brilliant intense finish. So when you have that combination, you truly are in for a winning piece of movie entertainment, and Narc is very much of a dark, superb cop drama. Now, when we focus on its initial release, on a budget of 6.5 million, it did manage to gross 12.6 million at the box office. So yes, it did manage to make its money back. Now, I think there's a reason in particular why it wasn't, let's say, a bigger success or much more of a blockbuster financial success at the box office. And I think one of the reasons is it's a very much of an independent movie. You can clearly tell, and particularly if you watch the behind the scenes details on the DVD or Blu-ray, everything is very much of a constrained, smaller scale feel about it. There's no sensationalism, there's no truly dark master criminal that both cops have to team together to hunt down. There's no typical banter that you would typically get from a cop duo. So it's very much bleak, it's far more gritty and far more realistic, and everything is played down amidst the intensity. So there's less showy moments, if you like, in terms of promoting this movie. And I can very much vividly remember when the trailers come out, it did have a very limited promotion. Once again, this is primarily because they may have had limited resources, so they couldn't maybe spend as much in terms of the promotional materials for this particular movie. I also think another element as to why this film wasn't maybe a bigger financial success is because by the time we entered the 2000s decade, early 2000s, the cop drama genre had really petered out at this point. I've mentioned this in other films that I've talked about of this kind of ilk and storyline. By the early 2000s, we had very much shifted now into the bigger, high concept blockbuster action movies. Everything was more about the CGI and the effects, and of course we were beginning now to sow the early seeds of shifting into the very much of the superhero genre, which would of course become the dominant genre for the next 10 to 15 years after this film came out. So that was another reason why I think now it's very rare that you see any cop dramas do particularly well, particularly ones of this type where everything is very dark, intense. It's got that very bleak, almost ambiguous feel to palette, so it wouldn't be as appealing to mainstream audience as if you have a more typical formulaic cop storyline where you have the good guy and the bad guy, and you have very flashy action sequences as well. So I think those are the multiple factors that I think led to the main reason why Narc wasn't a bigger financial success at the box office. But despite all of that, I still think it's one of the best cop dramas I've seen, certainly from in the early 2000s. As I said before, everything is high quality, from the direction to the cinematography to the storytelling to the lead acting performances, and this is definitely a film that I believe deserves more recognition and appreciation post its release, and also features a career best performance from Ray Liotta as well. So those are my thoughts and feelings on my review of Narc, directed by Joe Carahan and starring Ray Liotta and Jason Patric. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you've seen this movie, where do you think it ranks in terms of Ray Liotta's film career? Do you think it is indeed amongst his best cinematic performances, or are there any other movies that you feel within his filmography that you think are deserving of higher praise? Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you have any other movies that you feel also underrated and underappreciated and deserve more recognition after their release, let me know what you think in the comments below, and if I've seen those movies, then I will indeed provide a review for those as well. So that's it for now. Please hit and like those subscribe and notifications and help me provide you more high quality content and reviews such as this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, stay at safe distances, and I will see you very, very soon.